A new report says the Warriors are shopping Andrew Wiggins in order to get more picks to trade to the Utah Jazz to bring in Lauri Markkanen. Should Andrew Wiggins go in a trade? Could he bounce back this upcoming season? What's his future? We discuss now on Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Thanks so much for being here. Thanks for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more as playoffs wind down. The sports stop sporting like we want them to. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. What's up? I'm Kylen Mills, your host, a play-by-play broadcaster and host for the Big Ten Network, NBC Sports Bay Area, and more. And apologies for laughing coming out of that last little animation because my co-host today, Chuck Walter, former KPIX sports anchor, 95.7 The Game host, was acting a fool. I could see him, like, it's hard to explain. On StreamYard, I could see him in like a little preview window, and he was throwing some crazy dance moves out there. On today's show, before I even let Chuck get a word in, Andrew Wiggins in trade talks so that the Warriors can bring in picks in order to trade for Lauri Markkanen. That's according to a new report that was out there. That's a possibility. Could Wiggins bounce back if he does stay with the Dubs? Realistically, what would his role look like? What should the expectations be? And then finally, the waiting game for Lauri Markkanen. Anthony Slater of The Athletic had a new report out today that this could be a while. We may need to buckle in. But Chuck, aside from the dance moves, how's it going?
It's going good. That was the oldest trick in the book in TV. You'd get the countdown in your ear and it'd be like 10 and you'd see how ridiculous you could be until the final horn. Every once in a while they'd catch you. You know, they'd take you a second early on the stream.
That's a dangerous game to play in TV.
It's fun. You got to keep it interesting every once in a while. Warriors keeping it interesting this offseason. Seems like they're in the mix, at least with some big time names. I love this time of the year, Kylen. It's the possibilities are endless. None of them may happen, but the possibilities are endless right now. It's fun.
Fair enough. I love it, but I also don't love it because of the anxiety that surrounds in the waiting game over what's going to happen. Some of these reports are driving me nuts because every day it's like, Lauri Markkanen is going to be traded. He's not going to get traded. He is going to get traded. He's not going to get traded. I'm like, okay, what is going on? Someone just tell me when something actually is happening. And then secondly, it's hard to keep up on this podcast with all the news that's going on. Like you could record at 3 p.m. and an hour later, some big thing breaks. So it's also a little bit stressful as a podcast host, but hey, we're working through it. I know Dubs fans are working through it as well. And they are waiting and hoping for this team to make one more move, bring in a secondary scorer. I wouldn't mind seeing an experienced big come in. So, hey, maybe more than one move, depending on what you're looking at. But I want to start today by talking about a new report from NBA Insider, according to Clutch Point's Brett Siegel. To be clear, I actually don't know Brett Siegel, and I followed the NBA for a while. I'm not familiar with him, so he's newer on the scene. With all of these reports coming out from different sites saying, according to sources, take it all with a grain of salt. But you know what? It's a time of year where all of these rumors, we got to have something to talk about. So let's talk about it. He is reporting that a multi-team trade in which the Warriors would deal Andrew Wiggins to acquire more draft assets for Utah in a market-in trade is a possibility and something that's been thrown on the table according to league sources. Again, this is from NBA Insider for Clutch Points, Brett Siegel, saying that that's something that's on the table. The Warriors trading Andrew Wiggins in a multi-team deal, which would ultimately lead to them getting more picks that they could send the Utah Jazz. Part of the reason why discussions for the Warriors acquiring Lauri Markkanen are a little bit on hold or maybe more challenges because the Warriors only have 2 unprotected picks and 1 protected pick they could send to the Jazz when reportedly Danny Ainge wants a whole slew of selections. But let's start with Andrew Wiggins. Do you think that would be the right move to trade him? Do you think that he should stay with Golden State and he could have a big blow up year and get back to where he was in 2022?
I'm indifferent about this entire thing. I came on this show like a week ago and I said, yeah, you should absolutely trade Andrew Wiggins. Then I started doing the research. I looked more into some of the numbers, and a lot of people say Andrew Wiggins hasn't been good for 2 years, and it's just not true. He was great in 22-23, was really efficient, had a fantastic season. Unfortunately, he missed a lot of the year. And then people, kind of lumped the 2 seasons together. and act like he didn't play a ton in 23, 24. In reality, he played 71 games and he wasn't great by any means. But I find it interesting that later on in the season, like the first 4 months, he had a plus minus of -6, was shooting the worst statistic numbers of his career. Then by the end of the year, had his best scoring month of the season in the 6 games he played in April, was averaging 17 points, and just post All-Star break overall, his numbers were up. And then if you believe in artificial intelligence, his 24-25 projections, I don't know how they come up with this, Kylen, but it says that Andrew Wiggins this year is projected to score 18 points a game, shoot 45% from the floor, 37% from 3, grab 6 boards and 3 assists per game. So I like that. I also like getting the piece in return for Andrew Wiggins. Here's the issue. You have no leverage right now. It's a contract that doesn't look great. The stock is as low as it's ever been. So if you don't get the right deal, and I don't think you're getting picks for Andrew Wiggins. Like if you're trying to trade him to, let's say, Chicago or something, a rebuilding team, they're not giving up their picks to get Andrew Wiggins. So maybe you roll the dice here unless someone really wants Andrew Wiggins. That's kind of my take on it.
So a couple thoughts on that. First of all, Wiggins, $26.2 million contract. Definitely, like you said, going to be tougher to move him. Is there even a market for Andrew Wiggins is the next question that I want to ask or want to pose. Like, what teams would want to offload draft picks in order to bring him in? Is that something that's even attractive to a lot of teams? I think it really only fits a specific group, and you have to look at teams that are maybe just one piece away from being a contender, and teams that are looking for a 3-and-D or defensive wing player would make the most sense because he still has those defensive abilities. Yes, the numbers were down. I do want to mention last season, average career lows of just over 13 points per game, effective field goal percentage of just over 51%, also 4.5 boards per game. All career lows. So like you said, definitely stock is down compared to where he was even just last season, the season prior. And by last season, I mean 2022-23 and then the championship year. So yeah, that's not great when it comes to wanting to get more back for a player that you signed and had big expectations for. But I do think there are a couple teams that could be in the market. One that I look at is the Cavs. The Cavs need a defensive wing. They're a team that already has a couple of elite scorers. He's not going to be one who's going to be taking the ball out of Donovan Mitchell's hands or something like that. And they're a team that is in that contender range where I think they would maybe say, hey, we're willing to give up a couple of future draft picks in order to bring in what we feel like is a void and that specific fit that we need right now on this almost championship caliber team. And we're willing to maybe take a gamble that we hope Andrew Wiggins has an up year. And then maybe a change of scenery could be a good thing. You look what happened to Andrew Wiggins when he joined the Golden State Warriors after leaving Minnesota. Hey, we hope it could happen again. We're willing to bet on that. And then outside of the second apron teams, like the Bucks, I think are another team that can maybe make sense. You look at the Suns, those are tougher to make trades with. And that's why I think that Cleveland would maybe make the most sense, but I could see there be some teams that are in the market for an Andrew Wiggins. I think it's interesting you brought up Chicago. Like, why do you think Chicago would want to mortgage some of their draft stock to bring in an Andrew Wiggins? Because to me, I don't know what's going on in Chicago, but that's a team in a rebuild. I think it's like it's bizarre over there because they should have rebuilt years ago after the whole bringing in Vooch and all them didn't work. But why do you think Chicago would be a team that they might be in discussions with?
I just saw, well, first of all, going back to the Cleveland thing, I kind of forgot that Wiggins was drafted by Cleveland.
Yeah.
Was traded to Minnesota for Kevin Love. Kevin Love obviously came over to play with LeBron and Kyrie and win an NBA championship, beating the Warriors in the process. But yeah, that'd be interesting seeing Wiggs go back there. But I just saw that it makes
sense, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, it makes sense. It depends on what the Cavs are giving up in the process. But yeah, I mean, he's a proven player. Like you mentioned, 3-and-D. He's gonna defend at a high level, point of attack. So
I was gonna say that's the biggest thing if the Warriors were to move him that they would be missing because the production was down, but he still is a high level point of attack defender. No question to me.
And he was playing better as the year went on. I mean, the numbers show you that as you know, the first 2 months of the year kind of faded. The numbers went up. He was playing a little more. He was more effective. But the reason I bring up Chicago is, an NBA analyst. I won't name him because this is kind of a ridiculous trade, but they proposed an
What
idea.
name drop? Chuck, you have to name drop. That's what this is all about. That's what podcasts are about. Name drop and roasting people. So let's go.
I just have one NBA analyst. I think it's the exact same analyst that you brought up from Clutch Points, but I'm seeing
Okay.
these trades
Go
flying
ahead.
all over the place. But a 3-team trade between the Pelicans, the Bulls, and the Golden State Warriors. So Zach LaVine would go to, how does this work? So Golden State would receive Cam Johnson and Dorian Finney-Smith from the Brooklyn Nets. The Brooklyn Nets would receive Andrew Wiggins, Kevon Looney, Moses Moody, and a 2026 first-round pick and a 2028 second-round pick from Atlanta. And then obviously the Bulls would be involved too. Where does this trade, like, what do the Bulls even get in this trade? It's very loose on his part. But basically there is this theory out there that the Warriors could somehow get Zach LaVine in a Wiggins straight trade involving a third team where they traded Peyton and Moody and maybe one of the other younger pieces, and then went with those draft picks and a piece like Kuminga to get Lauri Markkanen. And then you got LaVine, Curry, and Markkanen. But I think that's one of those pipe dreams that you see. I don't think that's actually going to happen. Another one that I saw that I have to bring up, because I know you'll love this one, Kylen.
Oh, no.
Ben Simmons. I mean, when you're talking about two contracts that right now don't look great and two players that have seen their stock drop to the lowest of their career, I would say I would bank on Andrew Wiggins being, getting back to form, all-star form, 1,000 times more than Ben Simmons ever being a big-time player in the NBA again. But that's one, Simmons would allow the Warriors to get off that bad money a little earlier. He and Draymond would be nice defensively. Be fun to watch for like a game. Offensively, though,
Dude, there's going to be a
it'd be like
crazy
Bird
30
Box.
for
Like,
30 about the
yeah.
rise and fall of Ben Simmons because like he was projected to be like an elite top of the NBA player like 3 years ago. His whole story is wild, but I just know absolutely that trade suggestion is going to get eaten up by Dub Nation in the comments, in the chat. So I love that. I love that. Let's keep things controversial. I do want to ask about whether or not you think the Wiggins should possibly roll the dice and keep Wiggins and hope that he bounces back. And we'll touch on that here coming up. It can be so easy to compare yourself to other people, especially in the current world that we live in where social media dominates everything. Everyone looks like they're having the greatest summer of all time, right? If you base it on their social media photos, everyone's smiling, laughing, always looking like they're living their dreams. But you have to keep in mind that what you see on social media isn't necessarily a direct representation of what's happening in real life. And you know what they say? Comparison is the thief of joy. It's easy to envy other people's lives. One thing to think about if you're thinking about starting therapy and wanting to figure out how to better yourself, you can give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and then you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Stop comparing and start focusing with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/lockedonnba today to get $10 off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedonnba. So first of all, I want folks to drop any thoughts that you have in the comment section. First of all, would you be willing to trade Andrew Wiggins to get picks back if that meant that Lauri Markkanen comes to the Golden State Warriors without moving Jonathan Kuminga? My answer to that is yes. I know some folks are getting sick of hearing about it a little bit, but I'm definitely on the Lauri Markkanen train. This is a short Golden State Warriors team by the standards of the NBA. Adding a 7-footer certainly doesn't help, even if he's not like considered an elite interior defender, crazy shot blocker. At the end of the day, it still adds size, and it adds size via a 7-footer who can shoot the three ball at nearly 40%, just a hair under 40% this past season. He's actually pretty agile, and when it comes to being able to attack off the bounce when defenders step out on him, especially bigger defenders, he's really fun to watch in terms of finishing around the rim. Like, go up, look up some Lauri Markkanen dunk highlights. Like, it's electric. I think he would be a great addition. And honestly, out of the options that are left, I think he would be the best option. But if you don't have to move Jonathan Kuminga, let's do it. I think the Warriors do have to, in some way, mortgage some of the future when it comes to picks. I've seen some mixed reviews and responses on this. So again, I would love to hear everyone's thoughts. I'm willing to part with picks if it means the Warriors can bring in Markkanen and possibly be contenders or at least competitive in the playoffs and try to do right by Steph Curry and make this a team that's going to give yourself a fighting chance in the postseason. Would you do it? This trade that we're talking about, it doesn't matter the team. So I guess it's hard without knowing certain specifics. But if it meant moving Andrew Wiggins to get a couple picks back and then moving off a boatload of picks and maybe one or two of the young players who aren't Jonathan Kuminga for a Lauri Markkanen, would you do it?
I don't see the type of picks, the Cavs being a good team when you bring up them as a potential suitor that would go after an Andrew Wiggins. How attractive is that late first round pick that you're flipping, assuming it's 25, 26, whatever it may be? How attractive is that first round pick to flip to Lauri Markkanen? Like, I don't see Andrew Wiggins, and I know it's been reported, but I don't see Andrew Wiggins as a piece that can get shipped out to bring you back draft capital. Like, if anything, I think you'd have to attach the draft capital to get rid of Wiggins' contract. Like, that would make more sense to me from another team's perspective. Going back to Lauri, though, I love him. I can't say I watch a lot of Utah Jazz basketball, but I did do one thing over the weekend. That was watch about 45 minutes consecutive of Lauri Markkanen. Ferocious dunks.
Wait,
quick
how many
trigger.
seconds?
45 minutes, not seconds.
Oh, I thought you said 45
No.
seconds. I was like,
I may have said
wow,
45
really
seconds.
went nuts with the
I may have
scouting
said
and
45
preparation,
seconds,
huh, Chuck?
but I meant 45 minutes. No, come on, 45 seconds. I got a good eye for that. 45 seconds. You can get all you need. But no, all you need is 45 seconds to watch him because he's great. And the Warriors, who have been known systematically to have really good rim protectors, even when they're undersized, like, I think he'd be a pretty good rim protector. He throws down. He's great in transition, catch and shoot. I think catch and shoot, he had more catch and shoot attempts per game than Klay Thompson this past year. You saw how good prime Klay Thompson was in the Warriors system. He fires it off without dribbling and just it's catch, shoot.
Uh-oh, Chuck, you're on a wonderful rant
That's what
here,
Lauri
but you
Markkanen
froze
gives you at a
for
40% out the ball. It's all right. I'm freezing because I love Lauri Markkanen at the end of the day. Quick release, deep range,
system is
size.
glitching.
Yes.
The internet is glitching because of your excitement for Lauri Markkanen. You're unfrozen. You can talk again. I just want to let you know that we missed part of your point.
Well, I gave you the point. I'm just saying that I've heard the Kevin Durant comparison, and obviously you can't compare KD to Lauri Markkanen, but in terms of skill set, in terms of skill set in the NBA for someone that size, I've heard the comparison. I'm not making it.
Interesting. Okay.
For my 45 seconds of tape. I'm not making it, but I have heard that with that size and that skill set, granted, Durant's way more of a reliable scorer that you can get it to him in the elbow and he can give you that.
I was going to say, yep.
Yeah, you can run the offense through him.
Mid-range.
Yeah, that's not Lauri, but Lauri's he could be a great number 2 if you get him in there. Going back to your point though, I love to get him. I just don't love the ways that Golden State would have to go about getting him. Because if you're talking about a team that potentially, if the retool doesn't work and they're rebuilding in a couple of years and you have big time picks and you've given them away, then you run into situations like we've seen, whoever's taking the picks from you, Utah is in a position like the Oklahoma City Thunder, where they just have pick after pick and they're turning into elite players. Oh, we get, with the second pick, we get Chet Holmgren. And then a few picks later, we get Jalen. That sort of thing really scares me. But in the moment, I would love to see Steph Curry win another championship selfishly. We'll talk about the future down the road. And I think the best chance he has to win a championship is added in Markkanen. But we'll have to wait until August, it sounds like.
The thing is, even if the Warriors shipped off a bunch of draft picks, they still would have a good portion of young players, assuming they focused on shifting off or moving off the draft picks and not moving off all of their youngsters. But like, if you kept a Trace Jackson Davis, if you kept a Brandon Pajemski, if you kept a Jonathan Kuminga, let's say they moved Moses Moody with draft picks, like, you still do have young players on this roster that have a ton of potential. And I just think it's a risk you have to take. You have to be willing to take some kind of sacrifice to improve this team, to do right by Steph Curry and give it one last shot. I know some people are on the page where they feel like, listen, this is a rebuild. We need to be in rebuild mode or quasi rebuild mode, maybe, where it's like, okay, we're okay with being a playoff team. And we want to see Steph off into the sunset with some success, not a total disaster, but we're acknowledging that we're not going to be a contender and we're just going to play the young players, see how it goes, hope they all make significant jumps. But realistically, this roster on paper is not a contender worthy roster. That's one way the Warriors could go. Like realistically, they could do that. They can keep all these future picks. And like I said, maybe not a full rebuild, full collapse, but a quasi rebuild and say, hey, listen, we're just going to play all the youngsters this season. And to me, playing all the youngsters, yes, I think it would be fun. Let's see how much they develop. I think this could still be a good team, but it's not going to be a great team. And you just accept that. That's the other road you could go down.
Yeah, and that same road can be very fruitful if Bajemski or if a Jonathan Kuminga takes the next step and you got a couple of young all-stars potentially to go along with Steph Curry. Then it's a completely different story. The way that I look at it is I'm looking at how long can Steph Curry, who's been all NBA every year he's been healthy, at least first, second, or third team, with him being third team in 23-24 for a decade now. He's been an all NBA type player. Like, how long can he go? I know Brady went until his mid 40s pretty much, where he was still one of the best in his game. Obviously, quarterback, completely different position. LeBron's pushing 40 at this point. He's still fantastic and has tons of athleticism in him. So you take care of your body, you have great genes. It is possible to play into your late 30s, early 40s potentially. But like, how effective can he be? How long? I know that you say he's still in his prime. A lot of people would disagree with that take. I still think he's a really, really good top 15 player in the NBA. But how long can he be on that level? Because one of these days, there's going to be a significant drop off. It just, Father Time is undefeated. How long can he go, though? Can they extend him again and get another run out of him if they were to bring in Markkanen? That's where it all comes back to me. How long can you bank on Steph being not only the face of the franchise, but just an overall game changer? Because he still is.
I love when we go on random tangents because it's a great question. It's definitely a question that this front office should be realistically looking at. I do make the argument that I think Steph Curry is still in his prime, and I'll explain exactly why here coming up. Oh man, I wish that it was NBA season back in full swing already. Unfortunately, we're not quite there yet. I love sports, never want them to stop. Unfortunately, playoffs over in terms of the NBA. Sports aren't sporting like we want them to, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show. But one thing you can do is play FanDuel in order to keep the sports going and make them more interesting whenever you want. All you have to do is open the app, make up some bets, say, hey, I'm in the mood, and put some money down, and you could win big. For example, here's a play for you. Bet on the Texas Rangers to make the playoffs plus 475. Just a little sprinkle. Don't go crazy with it. There's a reason why they're plus 475. However, Max Scherzer is back. Wyatt Langford, their top prospect, is playing fantastic. Both reasons to think they're hitting their stride. They're only 5.5 games back right now in the division, so there's no reason to think they can't make up some ground and certainly make the playoffs. That's a play that you could go with over on FanDuel. This summer, also, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So once again, if you're missing NBA season, you can make watching baseball more fun by playing on FanDuel. Head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Here's why I'm going to say Steph Curry's still in his prime, because he continues to put up numbers. For example, this past season and the year prior, despite the fact that he did not have a reliable secondary score. Steph Curry has had to take on so much of a burden in this offense. Klay Thompson has not been a reliable floor spacer because of his inconsistent shooting the last 2 seasons, and really since he returned from injury, which was midway through that title run year, January of 2022, and he was able to contribute, which is incredible coming off the injuries, but he's not the floor spacer that he once was. Steph Curry has defenders draped all over him, 2, 3 defenders. And you look at his numbers from the past 2 years, 29.5 points per game and 26.5 points per game, just about. Incredible shooting splits. This past year, slight drop off, but 45, 41, 92. The prior season in 2022-23, 49, 43, 91.5. And then averaging somewhere right around, well, these 2 years actually had pretty big differences in rebounding numbers, but 6 boards per game, 4.5 boards per game, right around 5 to 6 assists per game. You still see him playing to me at an elite level and a prime Steph Curry level. And I think that the numbers have to take into account the fact that since the 2022 title run, they've not had a reliable secondary option. In 2022, in the final series, Andrew Wiggins was the second best player and reliably the second best player throughout that title run. Like, he elevated his game like he never has before. And that compensated somewhat for Klay Thompson not being the reliable three-point shooter that he once was. But these past 2 years, I've been saying over and over again, Steph needs help. I stand by that. The fact that he's still able to do what he does while getting double and triple teamed every night, because look around the rest of the Warriors, starting in the front court with him, you've got Kevon Looney and Draymond Green that you don't have to guard, that you can sag off of, you can double elsewhere. And then Klay Thompson's not reliably hitting. Brandon Pajemski came in and he was a fun addition. I like him, but he's not like an elite shooter. And then Andrew Wiggins at the 3 completely dropped off, as we've already talked about. So that's my whole argument on a separate tangent about why I think Steph Curry's still in his prime. I think the Warriors, if they brought in Lauri Markkanen, could be a very serious and dangerous team in the Western Conference. Last thing for you, because it's already almost time to wrap up. 2 questions. First, can Wiggins bounce back this upcoming season if he stays with the Golden State Warriors? Yes or no?
I think he can. I think
okay.
29 years of age, you're not over the hump. A guy with that sort of talent, I would bank on him bouncing back this season before trading him just to get off his contract. I want something in return for Andrew Wiggins. And I know that we proposed that trade earlier with Ben Simmons. Absolutely not. Don't bring in Ben Simmons. But there was that other trade in there that financially could make sense. Yeah, with Dorian Finney-Smith and Cam Johnson. Cam Johnson, a really good three-point shooter, could help space the floor. Would I entertain that? I'd have to go Poindexter and look deep into the numbers. But, I'd at least consider that off the top of my head. But in terms of just, getting rid of him to get rid of him, maybe 2 weeks ago I would have said that. But I do believe that there's a decent chance that he bounces back this season. He's had a lot going on in his life, clearly the last few years. Hopefully just an off season off where he's not playing in the Olympics, has a full opportunity to just get back into the swing of things and hopefully pick up where he left off in the second half of last season, because he was playing all right.
Here's the thing. If you're trading Andrew Wiggins, though, for picks that can help you bring in Lauri Markkanen, that's not trading him for nothing. That's trading him to give you flexibility.
No one's giving you picks. That's the issue, Kylen. I don't think anyone's giving you picks.
I agree. It's a small market, but Cavs or Bucks.
If you could fleece someone, go for it. Yeah. If you could fleece them and get picks out of it and someone wants those picks, absolutely. I just personally don't think. I hear what you're saying. Mm-hmm,
yeah. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of validity to that. Okay. If they keep him around, I don't feel confident that he is going to bounce back, because to me, the big question mark is whatever is going on for him in his personal life that is affecting his mental ability to focus on basketball and to play the game that he was playing in 2022. Because the skill set's still there. This last season, he was streaky, but there were times where we were like, hey, old Andrew Wiggins is back. Maybe, kind of, sort of. You get your hopes up a little bit. And then it would go right back the next day to where he just doesn't look locked in. But I feel like a lot of what I saw, at least from him, in the body language and just lack of confidence, like it looked more like it was mental than him physically being slow. I mean, he did miss shots, but again, I feel like a lot of that is confidence versus having the physical abilities to do those things. And I just think a lot of the confidence comes from something going on in his personal life. Like, it's not just confidence. I feel like mental focus, like something is going outside of basketball. And without knowing what that is, without having any context for that, it's hard to say what Andrew Wiggins is going to show up to training camp this year, assuming he's still on this team.
But what one would you rather have? Would you rather have a player that has to find himself mentally, or would you rather have a player that can't run, jump, and shoot anymore because he's old? So I would take the former, take the guy that, hasn't been there in his perfect headspace the last few seasons. Hope that an offseason refreshes him. He comes in energized with a potential new core and, gets back on track. You were the one that just mentioned it's not a talent issue. So if it's not a talent issue, you don't trade him for someone that's less talented, that's not going to make your team any better just to reshuffle deck chairs, unless there's something behind the scenes that we don't know about, to where they're just like, Andrew Wiggins doesn't work in the Bay Area anymore. We wish him all the best, but he's got to go. If that's going to happen, then you trust the front office to do their thing. But if not, I would say definitely court him, definitely see if there are any suitors out there. And if you can get the right price for him, entertain it. Aside from Steph Curry, entertain everyone on this team, see who you can get. But at the end of the day,
a lot of people would say everyone but Jonathan Kuminga. A lot of people, and I had those discussions a couple weeks ago on the show, not putting Jonathan Kuminga on the table, but
I wouldn't trade him, but entertain, right?
You can entertain.
Yeah, see if some team out there is like, yeah, Jonathan Kuminga, we think so highly of him, we'll give you 7 first-round picks. Oh, 7? Take him. We'll be great in 4 years. So.
Oh, Chuck, great having you on. It's been a blast. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Chuck, have a good night. Appreciate it. Folks, we are going to go live and do a post-game episode after the Warriors Summer League game tomorrow. Reportedly, Trace Jackson-Davis and Brandon Pajemski are going to be playing, so I want to shout that out. And then I have the very talented Aaron Wilson of Cron 4, who's also going to be coming on the show on Thursday, so lots to look forward to this week. Thanks for joining us. Chuck, you got to work on that jump shot, whatever you were just doing. I'm going to have to roll.
It went in the wastebasket. It went ahead.
I'm going to have to roll the graphic after seeing that display.
Silky!
Have a good night, everyone. Thanks for joining us, or day, depending on where and when you're listening. We appreciate you.